Hello, welcome back. It's Monday and a new week. The sun is shining, so the temperature will get up and up and up to like 30. It's Monday today, and Thursday I will get my pension. Thursday, that's 31. I get my Danish pension. Then Friday I have to pay my rent, this apartment, and all my credit card debt. But I'm not spent any money on my three credit cards, so that's super good. So my payment will drop. There's two credit cards, and just need to keep doing that the next 10 or 20 months. Then I will get some more money for my living, for my food. Then I could start to get out more. I could maybe in the future I could go to some air shows and record some real fighter jets. I could travel in YouTube if I get a driver license to a car, and I get a small old called station wagons. The long one, you can have a mattress behind and sleep behind the car. We have these long cars, I think we call it station wagons, or they call it something else because I'm not English, I'm from Denmark. But I like to read about this MiG, this Mikoyan-Gurevich fighter jet from the old Soviet Union. So that's MiG-19, 17 and 15. And MiG-9, so I read about MiG-21, 23, 25 and 31. So I still need MiG-27, 29, 33, 35 and MiG-1, 2, 3. I will keep doing that, but now today I like to read this MiG-19. And after this I will do MiG-17 and 15. And the older one, when I finish the old one, not everyone, but the old jet, that's mostly jet. That's, I think, the MiG-9. MiG-9 is the oldest fighter jet before MiG-15, but we look at that later. So I will go to my bed and read about it. And I will make a video in my language, Danish. After that, I should do it in English. But I have a lot of problem in my daily life every week and month. Money problem and all kind of problem. So it's more easier just do it in English, no, in Danish, my language. No, they used to mention there. They said variants, Shenyang J6 probably I have to read about it. No, they said developed from Mikoyan-Gurevich 17. This is how I find it. And this Chinese variant, Shenyang J6 probably I have to read about this one. This Chinese version, like the Chengdu J7, the Chinese version of the MiG-21. I just read about it yesterday. And after all this, I will need to read a bit ultralight aircraft, but I need to read more. I don't like to stop now because then I maybe never get back to look this old MiG fighter jets. So now I do the MiG fighter jets, and we need to do but before I do the Sukhoi fighter jet, I could look a bit ultralight. So next is MiG-17 and 15.
Mikoyan-Gurevich MiG-19. MiG-19 MiG-19s in the National Museum of United States Air Force Roll Fighter Aircraft National Origin Soviet Union Manufacture Mikoyan-Gurevich First Flight 24 May 1952 SM2/I-360 Introduction March 1955 Status retired in the Soviet Union, in limited use by some foreign countries primary users Soviet Air Forces, historical People's Liberation Army Air Force, historical. Produced 1954-1968 number build 2,172, excluding production in Czechoslovakia and China. Developed from Mikoyan-Gurevich MiG-17 variants Shenyang J6. The Mikoyan-Gurevich MiG-19, Russian, 19, NATO reporting name, Farmer, ISA Soviet second generation, single-seat, twin-jet fighter aircraft and was the world's first mass-produced supersonic aircraft. It was the first Soviet production aircraft capable of supersonic speeds in level flight. A comparable U.S. Century Series fighter was the North American F-100 Super Sabre, although the MiG-19 primarily fought against the more modern McDonnell Douglas F-4 Phantom II and Republic F-105 Thunderchief over North Vietnam. 1. This aircraft was originally used by the Soviet Union but it was later used by the People's Liberation Army Air Force. Design and development. In 1950 the Mikoyan-Gurevich, MiG, Design Bureau, also known as OKB 155, began work on a new fighter aircraft, intended to have a greater range than the existing MiG-15 and MiG-17 aircraft, and capable of reaching supersonic speeds in level flight. MiG goes to use two of the new Mikoyan 5 axial jet engines, a scaled-down version of the Mikoyan 3 that powered the Tupolev Tu-16 bomber, for its new fighter. 2. 3. As a testbed for the new engine, OKB 155 was authorized.
Yes, I read from the top again. I was laying, thinking all kind of stuff. I cannot do that. I have to think about this. So now we're reading MiG-19. I'm not going to thinking about everything, money and stuff. So now I like to read it. I do this because I like to read it. I not do this just to record for YouTube. I do this because I'm reading myself. Same time the computer voice, I'm reading myself in English.
Mikoyan-Gurevich MiG-19. MiG-19 MiG-19s in the National Museum of United States Air Force Roll Fighter Aircraft National Origin Soviet Union Manufacture Mikoyan-Gurevich First Flight 24 May 1952 SM2/I-360 Introduction March 1955 Status retired in the Soviet Union, in limited use by some foreign countries primary users Soviet Air Forces, historical People's Liberation Army Air Force, historical. Produced 1954-1968 number build 2,172, excluding production in Czechoslovakia and China. Developed from Mikoyan-Gurevich MiG-17 variants Shenyang J6. The Mikoyan-Gurevich MiG-19, Russian, 19, NATO reporting name, Farmer, ISA Soviet second generation, single-seat, twin-jet fighter aircraft and was the world's first mass-produced supersonic aircraft. It was the first Soviet production aircraft capable of supersonic speeds in level flight. A comparable U.S. Century Series fighter was the North American F-100 Super Sabre, although the MiG-19 primarily fought against the more modern McDonnell Douglas F-4 Phantom II and Republic F-105 Thunderchief over North Vietnam. 1. This aircraft was originally used by the Soviet Union but it was later used by the People's Liberation Army Air Force. Design and development. In 1950 the Mikoyan-Gurevich, MiG, Design Bureau, also known as OKB 155, began work on a new fighter aircraft, intended to have a greater range than the existing MiG-15 and MiG-17 aircraft, and capable of reaching supersonic speeds in level flight. MiG goes to use two of the new Mikoyan M5 axial jet engines, a scaled-down version of the Mikoyan M3 that powered the Tupolev Tu-16 bomber, for its new fighter. 2-3, as a test bed for the new engine. OKB-155 was authorized on the 20th of April, 1951 to convert one-off prototype MiG-17s, replacing the single Plymouth VK1 engine with two 19.60 kN, 4,410 lbf, M5s, later replaced by 21.08 kN, 4,740 lbf, M5s, with test designated SM-1, or I-340, flying late in 1951. 2-4, while the SM-1 was a useful test. 3. Its performance was less than expected, and first resulted in an afterburner being designed for the M5, resulting in the M5F, reaching 26.45 kN, 5,950 lbf, with reheat. 5. While the SM-1 was a test bed, the SM-2, or I-360, was intended as the required supersonic escort fighter, with work authorized on the 10th of August, 1951. The SM-2 was a twin-engined, mid-winged aircraft. Its thin wings, which had been designed at TSAGI, the Soviet Central Aerohydrodynamic Institute, for supersonic flight, were swept back at an angle of 55 degrees and had a single wing fence on each side. Unusually, a T-tail was fitted. Armament was two new Delman N3737mm cannon located in the leading edge of the aircraft's wings, near the wing roots. The guns had been moved compared to those in the MiG-15 and -17 to avoid ingestion of gun blast gases causing surging of aircraft's engines. 3. The first SM-2. The SM-2 /1 was sent to the Letno-Isledovatelski Institute, EN Flight Research Institute, LII, in April 1952 for testing, and was flown for the first time on the 24th of May 1952, with test. Pilot G.S.E. Duff at the aircraft's controls. 3-6, with the UN reheated M5 engines. The SM-2 could not exceed the speed of sound in level flight, so reheated M5F engines were substituted. 6. While the new engines improved performance, the aircraft was found to have handling problems, particularly at high angles of attack, where the aircraft was prone to spinning. To solve these problems, the aircraft's horizontal tail was lowered, with other changes including moving the aircraft's air brakes and deepening the wing fences, with the modifications causing the aircraft to be redesignated SM-2A and then SM-2B. 7-8. The M5F still generated inadequate thrust, and so the Mikoyan Engine Design Bureau developed a new engine to replace it. The M9B, later redesigned the Tumansky Road 9, rated at 25.5 kN, 5,700 lbf, dry and 31.87 kN, 7,160 lbf, with reheat. 3. When fitted with the new engines, the SM-2B became the SM-9, first flying in this form on the 5th of January, 1954. The SM-9's performance impressed the Soviet authorities, and it was ordered into production as the MiG-19 on the 17th of February, 1954, despite the fact that factory testing had only just started. 9, 10, 11. The rush to get the MiG-19 into service resulted in initial production aircraft having a number of serious problems. The type suffered a number of in-flight explosions, eventually traced to poor insulation between the aircraft's engines and fuel tanks in the rear fuselage. Overheating of these tanks could cause fuel explosions. This was eventually partly solved by fitting a metal heat shield between the engines and the tanks. 12. The aircraft's elevators proved ineffective at supersonic speeds, and an all-moving slab tail was dissed by the second and third SM-9 prototypes, and later included in the major production type, the MiG-19S, which also featured an improved armament. 13. At the same time that the daylight escort fighter was developed from the SM-2 and SM-9 into the MiG-19 and MiG-19S, work went on in parallel to design and build a radar-equipped all-weather fighter, with first prototype SM-7 /1 flying for the first time on the 28th of August, 1954. This prototype had a similar airframe to the first SM-9, including the conventional fixed horizontal tail, with the second and third SM-7s introducing similar changes to those tested on the SM-9 prototypes, including the slab tail. 14. The all-weather fighter entered production as the MiG-19P in 1955. Major differences from the MiG-19S included RP-1I Jumrad radar in the aircraft's nose, with small radomes in the center and on the top lip of the air intake, and an armament of 2 cannon in the aircraft's wing roots. 14. From 1957, production of all-weather fighters switched to the missile-equipped MiG-19PM, with an armament of 4 K-5M air-to-air missiles, with the cannon removed. 15. In 1955, following American introduction of high-altitude reconnaissance balloons and overflights by British Canberra aircraft, which could not be intercepted by existing aircraft, together with intelligence airports of the development of the Lockheed U-2 with an even greater ceiling. Development began on our specialist high-altitude version of the MiG-19, the MiG-19 SV, which entered limited production. This had more powerful engines and was lightened, with seatback armor and one of the guns removed, while flap settings were adjusted to give greater lift at higher altitudes, and a new pressure suit was introduced. These changes increased the aircraft's ceiling from 17,500 m, 57,400 feet, to 18,500 m, 60,700 feet. 16, 17, 18. The prototype MiG-19 SV was further modified, as the MiG-19 SVK, with increased wingspan, giving a ceiling of 19,100 m, 62,700 feet, but this was still inadequate to deal with the U-2, and effort was switched to the rocket boosters. 19. Operational history. Soviet Union. Deliveries of the new fighter to the Soviet Air Forces, VVS, began in June 1955, with the type being publicly unveiled on the 3rd of July that year, when 48 MiG-19s took part in a fly-past during an airshow at Tushino Airfield, Moscow. 12. During their service with Soviet anti-air defense and in East Germany, MiG-19s were involved in multiple interceptions of Western reconnaissance aircraft. The first documented encounter with a Lockheed U-2 took place in the autumn of 1957. The MiG-19 pilot reported seeing the aircraft, but could not make up 3,000 m, 9,800 feet, difference in altitude. When Francis Gary Powers's U-2 was shot down in the 1960 incident, one pursuing MiG-19P was also hit by the salvo of S-75 Dvina, NATO, Sa-2 guideline, missiles, killing the pilot Sergei Safaronov. 20. In a highly controversial incident, on the 1st of July 1960, a MiG-19 shot down an RB-47H, S/N53 to 4,281, reconnaissance aircraft in international airspace over the Arctic Circle, with 4 of the crew killed and 2 captured by the Soviets. They were released in 1961.
Yes, I have to read from the top again because I'm thinking about all kind of other stuff. I have to have my mind here reading.
Mikoyan-Gurevich MiG-19. MiG-19 MiG-19S in the National Museum of United States Air Force